Back now to our breaking news on explosive new comments from former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, who has worked for nearly every president going back to Nixon. Mr. Gates openly criticizing Washington, the White House, and President Obama's leadership style, suggesting the president did not even believe in his own war strategy as he sent troops out to fight. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Allen West is a Fox News contributor and a former Republican congressman out of Florida. Congressman, good to see you. What do you make of these? Of this extraordinary piece by Secretary Gates in the Wall Street Journal, which capitalizes on his book?
Well, as you have stated, Megan, it's a pleasure to be with you. You look at the proof in the pudding. When General Austin, who was the commander on the ground in Iraq, made the recommendation of about 15,000 for a residual force, the president did not put a lot of effort into any type of status of forces agreement, and we went to a zero force presence there. We could have definitely used those forces to be along the border with Iraq and Iran and Syria and Iraq, and you probably would not see the vacuum that was created, and so Iran has filled that vacuum. You would not probably have seen
but let me just interrupt and ask you, but what is the point of that? So what is your point, that he did that for political reasons as opposed to what was best militarily?
Well, I think the point is political reason. I think the point is it also goes back to what Secretary Gates talked about, was a mistrust of the generals on the ground, and you see that in Afghanistan. One of the things that was brought out in that Wall Street Journal article was that when General McChrystal came up with his decision to have a surge, that the president was not very pleased with that because he wanted to be the dominant entity when it came to policy decisions. You have to have a trust as a commander-in-chief with those generals on the ground.
Okay, but let me ask you, let me interrupt you, because we have a lot of points we want to get through. But the president he ran for office saying, I'm going to get us out of Iraq. And the people put him in office saying, yes, do that. So he did it. So, I mean, not being deferential to the generals on that was not a surprise. He had said he was going to do it. In Afghanistan, that was a war, as Britt was pointing out. He said, that's a different story, that, you know, they harbored the people who actually attacked us on 9/11. What Secretary Gates seemed to be alleging now is that even there, though, the president didn't believe in his own strategy. He sort of did the surge because he knew he kind of had to do the surge, but he did not believe in it. And in fact, Secretary Gates suggests he may have known, he may have been convinced that it was going to fail, even though it didn't fail. He may have thought it was going to.
You're absolutely right. And so what you just articulated, Megan, is the difference between a politician as opposed to a leader. Someone that is looking to be a commander-in-chief that's really going to make the right type of strategic level decisions that looks forward and visionary and long-term, not just, you know, the soundbite and the short-term political objective. And that's something that the American people have to come to start to understand is, are we going to continue to elect politicians that will tell us basically what we think we want to hear, or are we going to elect true leadership and statesmen and people that can fulfill that role of commander-in-chief?
That is an interesting point you raised, because another piece of information that has come out from Secretary Gates is this exchange that happened between Hillary Rodham Clinton and Barack Obama that he witnessed, and he writes about it saying, Hillary told the president that he claims to have been witness to this. Hillary told the president that her opposition to the 2007 surge in Iraq had been political because she was facing him, meaning Barack Obama, in the Iowa primary. The president conceded vaguely that opposition to the Iraq surge had been political because, keep in mind, audience, he opposed the surge too. To hear the two of them, Mr. Gates says, making these admissions and in front of me was as surprising as it was dismaying. He's saying that he heard Hillary Clinton outright tell Barack Obama that her opposition to the 2007 surge in Iraq was done for political purposes.
And those are the exact same two individuals that we need to get the truth about in reference to what happened in Benghazi when 4 Americans were abandoned in a firefight, a terrorist attack, not a video. And of course, they lied about it subsequently. So again, if we're going to continue to have these politicians and people that are playing politics with the lives of our men and women who are out there doing what this nation has called them to do, to fight for our liberties and freedoms, then we have to look at ourselves as a nation. And that's why I support that select committee for Benghazi to look at what is happening there so that we can get the truth from Hillary Clinton and President Obama. We cannot continue down this path.
That may yet happen. I do want to tell the viewers that Secretary Gates, as he was with the president on certain leadership items, was also very complimentary of Hillary Clinton, saying he found her, quote, smart, idealistic but pragmatic, tough-minded, indefatigable, funny, a very valuable colleague, and a superb representative of the United States all over the world. So the book is pretty even-handed from the excerpts that have been released, although I'm
Sure,
sure
but,
probably not
but
as sad would be too happy
four
about
Americans
it.
four Americans lost their lives, and so all of those nice little character traits obviously failed them.
Got it. And we want to tell our viewers, too, that we invited some White House representatives on to speak to the piece. They declined. All of this broke this evening, so we will get some folks on tomorrow evening with that point of view. But so far, we just have a written statement from the National Security spokesperson, as I read earlier, talking about how they believe much of their Afghanistan policy and the deliberations thereon have been reported already over the years. Congressman West, good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Megan.